Hello, welcome to the TechHub.training Alteryx Auditing Porter's Plates Challenge solution. In this challenge, we were auditing Porter's plates and trying to find some risk areas or potential for misstatement or even fraud maybe during their year-end audit. So this challenge was very open-ended, which I think is a lot of fun. I hope you had fun with it as well. And in Alteryx, the tools that I used were most commonly the join tool, the formula tool, the filter tool, and the select tool, which are very common, and so this is a great introduction to some of those basic tools. So let's go ahead and take a look at the solution that I came up with. So in this audit of Porter's plates, the first thing you're going to want to do is bring in all those Excel sheets and join them together. So as you can see, I've got all these join tools and all these Excel sheets right here. And my strategy for joining them together, you could do it any number of ways, but my strategy was to join them on primary key foreign key relationships. So I made a sales order kind of master table, made an invoice master table here, and then joined those together for like a transactions table, and then also joining the inventory, the customer, and the employee lists. As you can see, I also created some calculated fields. For example, up here, I wanted to find the total amount for each invoice, each sales order, and that was not provided in this table. It gives the quantity ordered and the price. And so what I did, quantity order and the price. So what I did, I went ahead and calculated the item cost. So for brand ID R1144, there were 4 of them, cost $15.99 each, for a total of this to help find the total sales order amount, which I did right here using a summarize tool. As you can see, group by sales order number to find the order total cost. And then went ahead and joined that back to the original table, and what that did is it just added that column on the end. So we've got the sales order, brand, quantity, price, and then here, same thing, except now also the order total cost, which we'll use later. And then join that to the sales order summary table using the sales order number primary key there. And then that was it for my sales order. I went ahead and looked at my invoices next. So you've got the invoice summary, and again created a calculated field here. Total charge being the sales total, so for the items, and then also the freight charge, which is the cost of transporting the goods. And so this amount would be the total amount charged to the customer. And so after creating that column, I joined it to the invoice detail sheet on the invoice number primary key, and then also joined in the cash receipts again on that invoice number. And then after doing that, got my order table, got my invoice table, joined those together on the order number, and then went ahead and added in the inventory, brand ID, the customers table on customer number, and the employee table on employee ID. And here all I did was create an employee full name column using their first name, a space, and then their last name. Another thing you might notice is right here we've got some data, and it says not okay. If you kind of hover, it says we got some trailing spaces. And so after joining these tables together, there were a few other columns that had the issue as well. So I just used this data cleansing tool. It selected all of them automatically, and I just clicked on the leading and trailing white spaces to remove those, so then all the data looks okay now. And it's a lot. And so in getting into my solutions, the first thing I did was select only the unique invoices, which took me down from almost 150,000 records to just the nearly 6,000 that we had originally. If you check back to invoice summary, 5,978, and here we have 5,978 unique invoices. So that's looking good there. And so in this solution, I wanted to double check to see if the employee address was the same as the customer's address. And one potential issue that may cause if they were the same would be that maybe the transactions weren't arm's length. And that's something you want to look out for on an audit, generally speaking. And so this was a filter where I used address, the same as a street address, the company. And as you can see, there were 3 where that criteria was met. And so I went ahead and selected only the relevant fields. And so you've got invoice, employee ID, their name, and the company name, and the amount there. Kind of tied it up into this browse tool right there. So those are the transactions, again, where the customer address is the same as the employee address. And the other thing I looked for was to see if the invoice total and the sales order total matched up. So we used some of those calculated fields that we made earlier to do that. Right here you can see we created another field called owed amount, and that represents the customer's total owed amount using the total charge from the invoice that we calculated using the sales charge and freight, sales total and the freight charge there, and then subtracted the discount. As you can see on some of these transactions, let's see, right here, so some of these have a discount, others do not. And so if it has a discount, they don't owe that money, right? So I went ahead and subtracted that here. Next, did the same thing as earlier, selecting the unique invoices, got that 5,978 number, which is good. And then I wanted to see, again, if there was a change. So use a filter to see if the sales total was the same as the order total cost. And for most of them, it was, but then for some of them, for 13 of them, there was a difference between sales order and invoice amount. And the only way that could happen is if an employee changed the sales order between when the sales order was received to when the invoice was created and sent to the customer. And so here I created a calculated field in the difference between the amount that the customer owed and the amount of cash that Porter's Plates received. And that'll help find where the cash went. So right here, cleaned up the table a little bit, and then right here's where we use that difference table. So if the difference between the sales order and the invoice amount was, if there was a difference and the difference was 0, like in this instance, then what that means is the sales order did change. The invoice was different from the sales order, but Porter's Plates collected all the cash, so it may have just been a misstatement, it'd be easy to correct. However, with these, the sales order was changed, the customer was billed for more than they had ordered, and Porter's Place did not get the difference. So that cash went elsewhere, and in this case it looks like Landon Lucas probably made off with the lion's share of it. And so again, used a select tool to show the fields that were relevant and had a browse tool to show that. And so that gives a little summary of the invoices where the invoice didn't match the sales order and maybe where the cash went. So again, this was my build for the Porter's Plates challenge. I hope you were able to come up with some cool stuff for what you wanted to solve. And if you're just getting going and needing a reference point, hope this helps give you some ideas. And I hope you have a great time with this. Excited to see what you come up with. Be sure to post your challenge to TechHub.training so you can share those cool ideas for us and others on the site.